Thanks for spending some time with us. Y'all get to hear some chicks in the background that I have. Praise y'all. Thank y'all for being on. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in your Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. Aman. Shalom. Tadach Yasrael. Barak Allah Shem Yahweh. Pastor Kofi. Helet at servants of Christ. Mashalom. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being on with us. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voice and speaking the unspoken. And we appreciate you today. Thanks for spending some time with us. We really, really appreciate you. We really honor you. We honor your presence. We honor you spending some time with us again tonight. Sorry for running a little bit late. Taking care of some family stuff, some family dynamics. Keep us in prayer. Trying to send some stuff out. Y'all pray for us. Making sure that we're getting all the material together is going a little interesting. We still have plenty of time because we don't have to send anything out till April 1st anyways, but we're trying to start sending stuff out. So just pray for us that everything goes well with all the stuff for Passover, all that great stuff. But thank you for being on. We honor your presence. Thank you for being on with us today one more again. We appreciate you. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Sister Denise, Greg, Minister Shantae, Big Brother Thomas, everybody who's coming on, Sister Deborah, Minister Joseph, Sister Sharice, Minister Tamara, everybody who's on, Sister Monica, appreciate y'all. Thanks for stopping by one more again, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on TikTok, we appreciate you. Let's go ahead and get into this. We give all praise and honor to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful to everybody for being on this evening. So for tonight, wanted to come from the context, wanted to use as a motif, as a theme for today. Why do you assume my obsession is oppression? Let's just go ahead, jump right into it, fam. Why do people assume that we are obsessed with oppression? Why do you assume my obsession is oppression? Why is it assumed that if one talks about what oppresses, what holds them down, what their people go through, that they must automatically be assumed to be obsessed with being oppressed? When the reality is that just because one lives with oppression doesn't mean that they're obsessed when they talk about it. Why do we make that assumption that the person who talks about oppression must be obsessed? Why do you assume my obsession is oppression? Why do you assume that? Why do you assume, how you doing, Sister Rachel? Why do you assume that when a woman says that she needs help with something and that we need to get ourselves better, that she's obsessed with being oppressed and she needs to change her mind? Why do you assume that a brother, when he says that I don't think masculinity is toxic, you assume that he's obsessed with patriarchy rather than giving a point? Right. We could also go to the place of, why do we assume that if Israel says that they're oppressed, why don't you listen to them? If Black folks say they're oppressed, why don't we listen to them? But why do we assume that somebody's obsession is oppression? Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people who love depression and feed it. But why is that our assumption? Why is that our goal? How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Miss Pierce? Why has it become our goal to say, what can I do to deny your right to speak about your oppression? Right? And we've been taught to do it. We do it with one another. On the live session, especially in the rising, what do we deal with all the time? People come on, and before they even know what we're talking about, everything is wrong. Of course, am I allowed? I get people to ask questions. Am I allowed to be on this chat? I'm white. Because you assume that because I would, first of all, you even, sometimes not even talking about oppression, I just look like myself and I look like my people, I look like my tribe. And so therefore I must be somebody who is worried about you having to pay for me, and I'm looking for you to give me reparations, and I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, because people assume that we are obsessed with oppression. So maybe it's because of what we're taught. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, like, think about your motivational speakers. Get over it. You got to find a way to get past it. Don't quit. Move ahead. And that sounds great, but move ahead concerning what? Doing what? What do I put in place of the pain that I'm getting away, especially if that's all that I've ever known? Now, we as a diaspora, we should be getting better and greater about this. But here's one of the things that nobody wants to talk about. When they call us obsessed about oppression, I have to first admit, right, that if I'm going to be myself, would you say our natural selves is rebellious to them? Yeah. We have to first admit that like people are at ease with your scorning. That's even biblical, right? Psalm 123, verse 4, that there are people that when they scorn you, it makes them feel at ease. How you doing, Sister Nadine? So if I speak about the fact that I am being scorned, you must comprehend that your oppression is not your obsession, it's actually theirs. Right? Excuse me for using my toothpick tonight. Right? But usually what you're going to find is that the person who's trying to call you out for being obsessed with being oppressed is normally the person who lives off of your oppression. I never owned slaves. Nobody said you did. What does that have to do with what I'm talking about? Well, you're saying that I live because of being owned by a slave or whatever. Yeah, that's called nepotism. How you doing, Shoe Queen? And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with nepotism. If your people made money off of it, they should have taken care of you. If you're their child, if you're their grandchild, if you're their great grandchild, you should benefit from that. If there's a group of people that said, if you look like us, we'll make sure that you're on a higher level than somebody else. If you get to a higher level, that's the way the system's set up. How you doing, Clarissa? Right, that's how it's set up. Yeah, they know what their ancestors did. And by the way, I don't blame them for what their ancestors did. And I don't blame them for simply being alive. Right. But we shouldn't have a conversation. So, but if the next part of my conversation says, well, you know that because of what your ancestors did, you had a head start. You say, no, I worked hard. Nobody said you didn't. Like peep game. If you run a race and I run a race, and I'm given, we're supposed to run 5 laps, and I only have to run 4. And you have to run with a chain around your ankle, with a ball and chain around your ankle. And you have to jump over pits, and I get to be in a lane that is just easy. And they put hurdles there and everything. If you tie me, it's very impressive. I don't have to be as impressive, but let's say we tie. I still had to run a race. I still had to work. I still had to go through stuff. I might have twisted my ankle. You never know what could have happened. Right? But for you to act like nothing happened, and then to say that I'm obsessed. See, what you call obsession is the fact that I had to focus. Yeah, they may have worked hard, but we worked harder, slaved harder. Yeah. See, what you call oppression, I work hard. Say whatever you will, but for my diaspora, if I say something that's wrong, Black people are held responsible. You don't do this thing that if I do something wrong, America's held responsible. You don't do this thing that if I do something wrong, that England is held responsible. But if I do something in the United States of America wrong, people who don't look like me in South Africa will look at it on the news and say, see, this is why we can't trust South Africans. Well, and you'll tell me that even though that's the case, you'll tell me that, oh no, like, you're South African and you're American and the white person is more South African. No, at the end of the day, with this colonial construct, the mindset is that oppression is the top, is top of the line. Oppression is supposed to be there. You're not supposed to make it out. Right? Like, why do you think that even though we have all these people that are there, right? The people that make, and by the way, if you even know how the system works, I want you to think about this. Who are the people who we assume are going to make it out? We don't look for people that are well educated in our community. Yeah, you can hear the chicks. That's what I was saying. We don't have to deal with that sound tonight. Interesting. You have to deal with cute baby chick sounds with what we're talking about tonight. Right. But let's keep it a buck, right? I kind of forgot where I was going. I'm sorry, y'all. What? Oh, yeah. So let's keep it a buck, right? Like, who is it that makes it out of our community? Who makes it out? Who makes it out? We don't expect educated people to make it out, even though they should. Hey, how you doing? I'm sorry, is that Masnip? I hope I said that right. Masnip. Ball players, right? We think of sports stars, right? We think of artists, rappers, singers. Matter of fact, who are your number one female rap artists? What did they all used to do? What do they all have in common? The ones that are number one right now, rap artists. Not all of them, but the ones that are, I'm talking about the highest of the high. I don't know about Riri, and I can't say Beyonce in this fashion, even though she's done some of the stuff behind the scenes. We'll leave that alone because the Bayhive might get upset. They're former exotic dancers, strippers on pole, right? These are the people that we have an expectation to make it. Lauryn Hill, she made a long time ago, right? But the people who are on top right now. And by the way, is Lauryn Hill still around? It's always interesting. Everybody tries to say Lauryn Hill didn't make it because she's a jerk, she's a diva, all this other stuff. I mean, there's a lot of divas out there. Beyonce is the biggest diva in the world, right? It didn't stop her from making anything. She started singing about the Most High. Y'all remember that? Started canceling her stuff. How you doing, Brisa? Yeah, I'm on YouTube right now. You hear money and savings? Hallelujah, right? I might show them to y'all. I had to move them from one box to the other. Even though they're small, they already got out of we had them in the box pretty wide. I had to get them a taller box until when we finally can travel, we're gonna transport them with us. And then put them in there, build an actual coop for them where we're going. How you doing, Sister Dawn? Right. But let's be honest about it, right? The people who make it out, we look for them to be Snoop. We're looking for, like, this is who these people are. This is who your sons and daughters are looking up to. Snoop, Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Ice Cube. And I want you to see something that we don't even think about, because we don't think of our community and ourselves and us going through the same system and following the same example as we talked about earlier, this rising with Jubilees chapter 1, verses 1 through 16. We don't talk about, following after Gentilic ways, right? Hey, how you doing, Brother Brian? But let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. You ready for this? Who are the families that are in Congress? Who are the families that run the country right now? Guess where they come from? They come from their hood, right? The Kennedy family, where they come from? Bootleggers. Changed the law. Put a father in Congress. He put his son to be president. The other son almost made it to be president. They thought they were so big and bad, they tried to go into the Federal Reserve. That's why their sons died. Where the Bush family come from? Ooh, do your research. Wasn't Reagan and Bush both together participating in making sure that they were selling crack to y'all in the hood? Where do you think they come from? The Rothschild family. Do your research. Where do you think they came from? They was cast that was hustling. And then they started hustling and realizing the cats was trying to carry too much gold. So they came up with a hustle. They said, look, man, I'll give you this check, this fake, this paper, right? That's not right, but we'll say that it was backed up in gold. Let me hold on to your gold over here. We got family over here situated. We'll make sure that we give you as much gold as you want on the other side, as long as it doesn't exceed what you gave us. You said Lion of Judah. Any thoughts? I don't know. What exactly are you trying to? I'm not really talking about that right now, but I'm not sure. Are you trying to say, is that a way of just asking what I believe in? I'm not sure where to go with that. Right. But you hear what I'm saying? How you doing, Stephen? Right. Now that was credit. Yeah. Right. Like when you do it, you are considered to be what? You're considered to be a thug. But these families, they were thugs. They are thugs. They still in the street. How you doing, Yaron? They still in the street. Where do you think informants? Do you think informants are just randomly talking to police? The police, the government, they run the informants. The CIA, the FBI, they run the informants. I've said this before, I'll say it again, especially once your gang gets to a certain size, you must comprehend if you're going gang or gang bang, you must recognize that there's somebody in your gang, right? Percentages show this to be true, that if you were in a gang, especially big time gang, right? Once your gang gets to be a certain number, somebody in your gang is not part of your gang. They work for somebody else, which means that gang member is actually part of a bigger gang that has the ability to shut y'all down. Right? The United States government is a gang. They just don't want you to think of them like that. Hey, what's up, brother Kobe? How you doing? I'm not necessarily talking about scripture right now, but if you want to come on and jump in, feel free. I owe you as much. I'll be having you come on here, and I'll never be inviting you on. If you want to come on here, feel free to come on and jump in. But see, you got to recognize, like all these cats is gangbangers, all of them, and they want you to believe that that's not the case, right? They want you to believe that that's not the case. When you're dealing with these gangbangers at the government, that's where they all started. They all started in the hood. They all started in the gangs. They all started with families. Like you call them, as a matter of fact, it's interesting. You call them rich families, but you don't call them cats in the hood. Matter of fact, you don't think about the fact that they could be arrested because they are the people who arrest. They just happen to have more power than your gang does, right?
Shalom, brother.
Hey, Shalom, how you doing, fam?
Oh, praise.
Amen.
I was just laying back.
Say it again.
I said I was just laying back. I said I seen you up. I said, oh, let me go slide in and get some of that bread, man.
I hear you, fam.
And get some of that bread. You had I jumped on your YouTube. You had I forget what you was on, man, but it was beat me. I was like, whoa. I think I had to go back through there.
You talking about from today?
No, I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
It had to be yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Man, it was.
I can't even remember. I can't even remember, Phil, or recall.
It was about the white. It was about the thing with the white.
Oh, okay. That's right? So we did the algorithm. The algorithm of an Israelite queen, and then we did the algorithm of Israelite king.
I said, yeah, that was powerful right there, man. That was on point. It was.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I gotta go back and look at them. Because I be on YouTube a lot. If I ain't up here, I'm usually like on YouTube. So I check your thing out and listen. I check some of the brothers out on the corners because they be having me crying on the corner. They be serious.
Mm-hmm.
So I just be listening to just be seeing everybody who out there. You know what I mean? Just looking at everybody, from their perspective and just looking at the work they doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just try to connect with everybody I connect with. That's basically it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. And that's part of us why we need to come together too, because like we were talking about, you dealing with a gang. So if you're dealing with the gang, guess what you gotta do? You ain't gonna deal with the gang by yourself. quiet is kept. Quiet is kept, you know.
Right. And that's a fact. Now you just made a real point. You said when you get these gangs or you get these infrastructures or whatnot, immediately what happened when they gain any kind of notoriety, the people coming right in there.
Mm-hmm.
And most, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Most times, 9 times out of 10, they actually operating them and running them.
Forever, yeah.
They the ones actually operating and running them. All they do is, might pick them up, snatch them up. Look, you on the team now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they ain't got to tell them unless, you know what I mean, because they'll give you so many. They give you so many options. They really do what they want. They give you so many options. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna do it, or you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you gotta be jumped in and jumped out.
Yeah,
and you got to prove yourself. You got to do something. You usually depending on who you joining, but you probably gonna have to. I know one thing that was going on up in on the East Coast for a minute. I don't know if it was just MS-13s. It was probably a couple others too. They was catching cats where basically you had to basically take a life, and what they was doing was they was flashing their lights. And if you would stop to be like, oh, somebody flashing their lights, and you slow down, or you stop, or you pull to the side of the road, that was it. But like they do a lot of stuff like that, and it's the same thing. You got to realize, when Yashta, that's what we talk about when we say like Balaam doctrine, or we talking about like Nicolaitan doctrine and stuff, to where they're trying to conquer you, when they're trying to get rid of Israel. Like these cats, especially your own, when you see them jump, like it's not that easy. Like I don't care who you want. I don't even know the names of most of these cats. What's the girl everybody hate the most? Whatever her name is. They supposedly wanted to run for president, but they said racist stuff about her too. Whatever her name is. At the end of the day, she had to get jumped into that life. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't think about that. Like, she ain't just randomly pull up. You gotta be qualified. Like, she had to marry the husband that she married. She had to have the child that she had. She had to, you have to get paid the money. No, not Hillary. I'm talking about the sister, the Israelite that don't know who she is.
Kamala.
Who is it?
Kamala Harris.
Oh, not well. She count, I guess. I'm trying to think of the one who was talking all the trash. She don't have as much notoriety right now as she used to, but she was everywhere. She still is kind of sort of. She was on a Joe Rogan show saying that all Native Americans ate themselves. She was the sister who basically was with Trump, but she had sued the NAACP to make sure she got money. Candace Owens. That's who it is. Yeah, Candace Owens.
Yeah, she be going in though. She be having some speaking points,
Oh, she does. But for real though, like that's what, like, everybody who speak, like even a lie got to be based off the truth. So that's why you still we always got to study. I can't say you because I know you study, but you know what I'm saying? Like, all of us, we got to study, because she'll say some stuff that's true. She'll say some stuff that's on point. But her goal is not to work for, like, because we're not Republican or Democrat,
Right.
And people be forgetting, like, she coming with a gang mentality. She trying to get you to join a cause that's not even, that she ain't running. That's what we talking about, these, these gangs. Like, you got to realize, if you join a gang, especially like Brother Kofi was saying, you get any type of notoriety, and guess what? Like, the government is in charge of your gang.
Yeah, they come. The government come. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big fact.
So
they gotta have control, total control, fellas. Total control. That's the aim. That's the goal. Desolation and desecration, where he stand in the temple, Allah Yam, and declare himself God. You are the temple that he's trying to get in and declare himself God over. I'm telling you, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Totally.
And all this stuff, God bless America, that's George Washington, and God we trust, that's on your money. Like, they're telling you with everything that you're doing. And because we are not trying to live in any kind of sovereignty in any kind of nation, you got to realize that you have to be a people. And a people is a nation by definition. You can be the people of New York. Why? Because you can be your state. A state is a country. You can be the people of California. You can be an Amish people, right? They'll even consider you to be a Jewish people, even though it's Jewish. So technically, you shouldn't be a people if you're ish something. But nevertheless, they'll say you're a Jewish people. But then when you say that you're Yehovah, or what they try to call Yehovah or a Jew, Judah, etc., then you got to realize that you have to develop your own stuff. That's why even with reparations, I say this all the time. Cats be talking about, give us reparations, give us this, give us that. And it's like, no, they don't have to give you anything if you're not a people, number one. Like Japanese people get reparations. Israelites, at least who say they're Israel, Jews, they get reparations. Why? Because they went through the rigmarole and they became a people on paper. So you have to, we have to become a people, and even the people, you have to have written down stuff. You have to have a constitution. If you say the Bible's your constitution, then you got to live by it, and you have to say what it is. You got to come to agreement, and that's what I'm saying. Like these gangs, the government, these gangs, your presidents, these gangs, your governors, your judges, your lawyers, they even trick you with titles. Like in the gang, you can say there's if the gang got a boss or whatever, but they do the same thing. They say you go to court, you say that somebody's in charge of the courtroom, that's a judge. But if you ain't talking to the Supreme Court, they ain't a judge anyways. They wear priestly robes because that means they're priests of this religion that they have, and we just go with whatever they say. But it's a gang mentality. Masons are a gang, Boule are a gang. Greek, you got them Greek letters on, you part of a gang. You got to pay your dues. You got to get jumped in and jumped out, right? You just can't get in the alpha. I don't even know all of them. Alpha pi. I don't know. I don't know what they all call. You can't just become Omega Sci-Fi or whatever and not get jumped in some way, shape, or form. Like you got to get jumped in. And so when we did, like, people think that we're, once again, the theme for y'all coming on tonight. Thank y'all for being on. That people want to tell you that, why do you, or the question we're asking is, why do you think that that I have an obsession with depression? Like, I'm not obsessed with being depressed. I'm telling you what it is, and we have to become not upset. Like they try to use the word obsessed. We have to be knowledgeable. Like your enemy has studied you. They know that when you're going to go to fast food restaurant, they already know that you need what? Sugar, salt, and fat. Why? Because people that don't feel loved, they like to eat sugar, salt, and fat. And they know most of y'all are beat up. You've been at your job 8, 9, 10, 12, 16 hours. You going home and you don't feel appreciated. You're already told because of who you are, what you look like, that you're not getting enough. So guess what? They made sure that there's a place you can stop. It'll tear your body apart and it'll make you feel even worse. So next time you'll get 2 orders. That's just 1 order. But they studied you. If you go to restaurants, you'll get the healthiest item on the menu, but you don't know. You got to ask them to take the butter off because they got to make sure it's fat. And
that's what they took from us, Kofi. What they did is they gave us this idol, selfism, right? And they took away our identity, which is as a people, right? Worship by Allah is one, right? Be ye holy as I am holy, right? We forget that we are one thing, right? And that's what we're trying to get back to, that one thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sold us individualism. That's our religion now, really. Individualism. That's one of the main idols. Individualism. Me. I. Right.
And what you say, it is powerful, bro, because it's a trick. Because not just because we need each other, we need a culture, we need a language, we need tongue, all that stuff. Right. But also, real talk, like, how do you, if everybody's religion and New World religion is being an individual without a need of society, then that means all of y'all doing the same thing anyways. Like they flipped it on you. They told you were an individual, but nobody was raised in a vacuum. So if you say everybody live your truth, at some point there is no truth. And so when there's no truth, the government come through and say, y'all ain't got no truth, you ain't got no culture, you ain't got no tongue, you don't have no standard. So we come on in.
I don't understand that. I heard people saying that it's my truth. Your truth. What does that even mean? Like, so what does that mean, right? We stop thinking as a people, right? We don't even think as a people, right? Everyone else, every nation you come across, they think as a nation, as a people. That's how they think. We the only ones on the planet right now who do not think as a people.
Don't even think it's necessary.
We split, we divided, we are fractured, right? Mentally, we're fractured, right? And it shows as a people how fractured we are. You see?
Yeah. And it's crazy because if you go over somebody's house, you know, like I say this all the time, I don't mind gentrification at all. I think it's mandatory. I think it's something you can't run from. Like people have to spend a whole bunch of extra effort to try not to gentrify their neighborhood. It's impossible anyways, because if you speak a language that was your slave language, then how you going to not gentrify? You know, and but it's a natural progression. Like people had this weird thing where it's like, oh, so you trying to say we should segregate? No, I'm trying to say that if my tribe operates like this, then I should probably look like them. I should probably dress like them. My table should be set up like I wouldn't call it gentrification if I went over to my man's house and they having a Chinese meal, not a Chinese food that you get, you know, from the corner joint, but the, you know, if I'm going over your crib and I come in there and they got duck and they got, you know, napkins in a certain way, they have chopsticks, they have all this different stuff, and I don't necessarily want them to cater to me and say, oh, because I came into your house, like give me a fork, give me this, give me that. No, like give me the chopsticks. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to actually have this experience. I'm in your house. This is the rules and regulations of your house. You know, so it should look like you. And so if I go to a Chinese community, I should see Chinese, like I should see Chinese characters. I should see, you know, things written right to left. I should see, you know, money bounce around to them several times before it goes outside the community. That's what's up. And we were taught when it comes to us, we're obsessed with it. Why do we keep talking about it? The reason we talking about it is because this is actually the norm. Like kings and queens hear us and hear as well. Like, you know, or I won't speak for my brother. I'm pretty sure he agreed with me. So I say, hear me and hear me well. Right. Like if you go be sitting up there and it's okay for everybody else to make sure that the dollar is spent 20, 30, 40, 50 times before it leaves their neighborhood and bounces around. If it's okay that every place that there is, that they don't allow anybody else to come in. Like we allow people come in our neighborhoods, and our is relatively speaking because we don't own nothing, but we allow everybody to come in our neighborhood, and you go to the corner store and it ain't you behind there, and you go to get soul food from the Chinese spot. You're going to get chicken wings from the Chinese spot. And I'm not saying it's bad. These people are bad. I'm just saying you don't see this in certain places, right? You go, you don't have, you have food deserts. You have to go to somebody else's community to get a deal on food, and it's not even real food anyways. You don't have any gardens in your community. You don't own the land here. You have to beg to see if you can have a community garden. When's the last time somebody in another diaspora was like, yo, we'll beg you to give us permission to grow food, and then we can't even own the land, which means technically we can't we can't do what we want to do with the food. Like we're the only people, like you said, because we've been manipulated. We were talking about this earlier, this rising. We've been scattered to a point to where we forget that it says in Jubilee that we've been scattered, but we're going to be brought back. And we're supposed to be the teachers, but we don't even know what to teach because we have no culture. And he says, like in verse, you know what, I ain't gonna get to line on here. I can't remember what verse. It's somewhere between Jubilees chapter 1. I want to say somewhere around like the first 5-6 verses. And it talks about how Moses was given the law, right? And everything. He was given the commandments. And it says the reason he gives them the commandments, he says, I'm giving you the commandments because your people, I can see in the future, they're going to be wilding. And they're going to be outside the law. They're not going to be committed to themselves. They're going to chase after the Gentiles. He said, and then I'm going to just deliver them up. He said, but the standard that they're going to be able to come back to is the law that I'm giving you now. Like, and we keep running away from it. And that's the standard. You know, when you say understand is okay to say as long as it's a standard you should be under. And we don't like to be understanded. We don't like to be protected by law. We don't want to do that in our marriages. We don't want to do that with our brothers and sisters. And it's like with everybody else, they're governed. by law. Like you go in a certain community, you already know before you go in there, there's certain things that you expected to see. Why? Not because you're racist, not because they racist. It's because it is what it is. I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm gonna stop talking. I know I've been going for a minute. I can't remember the dude's name. Chinese brother, older cat at the time. I don't know if he's still alive or not. Chinese brother. He came out, and everybody got mad. Black folk got mad at him, but he told the truth. He said, "Look, my community," he said, "we don't have no problems with black people at all." He came out and said, like, we don't have no problems with them. He said, but I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. If I have a choice to hire somebody that's Chinese or black, he said, I'm gonna hire somebody that's Chinese. He said, if somebody that's not Chinese tries to come in my community, I'm gonna overcharge them for whatever they're trying to buy or whatever spot they're try to have a business in. He said, but if they're in my community, we're gonna give them a break. He said, this is not just about black people. He said, I would do that with anybody. He said, the reason is because that we're supposed to take care of our own, and this system is set up to try and get us to not think that we should think highly of ourselves. He said, I want my children to wear our clothing. He said, I want our wives to be Chinese wives, even if you disagree with what we think Chinese wives should be. He said, I want our husbands to be Chinese husbands. He said, even if we wear Western clothes, we're going to still wear our own clothing. He said, the neighborhood should be set up to look like us. And then he said, my problem is not with black people. He said, honestly, the problem is that black people don't do that too. A lot of black folk got mad when he said
That's
it.
what the problem is, though. Kofi. Honestly speaking, if you get someone, right, that's what they'll say, Kofi. They'll tell you, listen, I don't understand how you guys could have been through all that you've been through, but y'all continue to be each other's, downfall. Like, that's what they say. And you know this because if there's any kind of heated discussion or debate or argument, they'll throw that in your face real quick. They shove it right in your face. Well, look at you guys. You guys do it to each other. It's like, wow, that's crazy. But that's where it may be a lack of respect that they do have for us. Is that, you know what I'm saying? With all that we've been through and us being the strongest people, they don't it's boggling. Like, yo, what are y'all doing? Like, people actually waiting on us. Because people actually waiting on us to take our place because they know your place.
I mean, it's correct. We repeat this. It's like just rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying? We wash, rinse, repeat. We keep doing the same thing, copy and paste, and and trying not to call it insanity. And it is baffling. Also, and also too, it's also even knowing yourself enough to be able to say, and knowing the story, not even his story or their story, but our story too, enough to be able to say, like, yo, well, even in all that, I get it. And so we got to work on that. But like, don't forget, like, how did China come to be again? Oh, yeah, y'all killed each other off. How did Japan come to be? Oh, yeah, y'all killed each other off. What's up with Taiwan? Oh, China won't even let Taiwan be free. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's still some of that. And we got to remember amongst ourselves, like we were talking about with the gang stuff, not all skin folk is kinfolk. You know what I'm saying? Or if I said that right, it might be reversed. I don't know. But, whatever, right? Not all black folk is somebody be trusted, or not all Israel is Israel, unfortunately, but we were also trained to do that, and that's the thing. Because everybody's gone through, just about everybody on the planet. I think there's very few people that haven't. Pretty much everybody's gone through, Eurocentric colonialism at this point, coming from that Roman mindset. And so a lot of people are very romantic in their values, even if they don't want to admit it. But yeah, we definitely struggle with that, and we don't like when people tell us that. But there's a real mindset that's there. There's that Willie Lynch mentality. It's still there.
And you know what I was thinking about? I was meditating. I was thinking, like, you know what? The average person actually believe themselves to be making their own choices and decisions in life, when you're really not. We have been programmed, and everywhere you go, the setup is there, to help you along to make your decisions on your choices, right? Even down to the group that you pick and decide yourself to be with and around, right? The companies you choose to work for, right? Your clothes, right? It's part of the programming right now, right? it's like we are the new AI, artificial intelligence. For real, because
you saw that jump Elon Musk, the Tesla thing that they coming out look like iRobot.
Nah, I never seen that.
Bruh, it's wild. It's wild. Somebody sent it to me, or somebody sent me something else, and then I went down a little rabbit hole. And when I tell you it looked exactly like the movie, except for the head is different. Everything else looks exactly like the movie. Like that thing right there. Some of y'all said y'all saw it. Yeah, that thing right there, bro.
You ever see The Mandalorian? Second season, Mandalorian.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second season. I haven't seen the second season.
Man, they going heavy on redemption, right?
Mm.
It was decent when it's coming in, and I could see it how it pertains to Yasharal, right? When it's coming, how it's coming in, you know, you coming in, you got the boy in the water, he's getting baptized in the living water, right? So they bringing him in. Oh man, it's heavy, man. It's the second season though, right?
Yeah, I think I won't ever get a chance to keep up with it. I got Netflix. I think I still got Disney Plus, but I just don't ever get a chance to really sit down and watch.
Yeah, I haven't been watching too many movies or shows either.
No, I'll binge watch The Mandalorian season 1. I ain't gonna hold you. It was like that. Like I ain't gonna hold you. It was like that. I ain't really liked what they did with the they kind of turned me off because after that they did the Book of Boba Fett. That was kind of, and then the
right. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I skipped ahead on Boba Fett and caught like the end episodes.
Yeah, you ain't really missed too much. Well, you know, they basically made it the Mandalorian light. They basically just put the Mandalorian up in there. It was like 2 or 3 episodes was about basically how Grogu and Luke, and then him making a decision and him going back to the Mandalorian, basically. So I guess they did that so they could start season 2 off with them making that money off of the Baby Yoda stuff or whatever. But and then they had the other joint. I kind of liked it for a second, but it was weak too. The the Kenobi jump. Obi-Wan. Yeah.
It was alright. Yeah, it was alright. Obi-Wan was alright. The best thing, I was just waiting for him to Vader to get into that one-on-one action. That was like the highlight of it. That was like the whole point of it. The rest of it was it was drawn out.
Well, fam, you know when they lost me? When they had the little girl, Leia, baby Leia or whatever, and they had her, and she hid underneath the coat of Obi-Wan, and they had 4 legs. It was like a cartoon, and nobody noticed that there was like this person walking around with 4 legs and a little girl inside the coat. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna check out of this. I can't. Like I used to be, like I'm not as much anymore, but I used to be a heavy Star Wars cat. Like I seen probably everything. I used to be the cat that read all the books that was canon, not canon, all that stuff. I'm just after a while, especially when you see some of the stuff that you know, and you see some of the, and you know what George Lucas was trying to do, even with that, getting back to the whole gang mentality and him trying to put in a bunch of. He said as much. He said that he made it so that people would basically not keep believing in the Most High, at least not the way that they do. Like he like actually came out and said that he's recorded on like a big whatever you call it. I guess it's a speech, but it's something else, some kind of speech. But yeah, he came out and said it like outright. Like, yeah, the reason why I did Star Wars and I studied is because like basically I kind of like went from agnosticism to atheism, and I wanted everybody to kind of realize that there's just a oneness, you know, the whole new world religion joint, that type thing. So.
Yeah, I haven't been too much watching. I've watched a few shows because when I watch them, I really like looking at them because they like the history, you know. And if you're not, if you watching to be entertained, that's the easiest way to fall into whatever control or program they place. So, and I think that's important. We understand what we watching, where we watching it, also because it affects you. You know, it has influence over you, which means, you know, it's going to move you one way or another. You need to know who move you on, why they move you on, what direction they move you in.
Most definitely.
Right?
Well, that's the point. That's the point of what they're doing. Like it's supposed to give you a vision, television. Like it's supposed to teleport a vision into you. Like they tell you in the creation of it. Like they something that is there that they put together. They want to make sure they put it in you. And that whole old school cats, our ancestors used to say, guard your gates. You know what I'm saying? Like be aware, be on watch. Be aware, be sober, be vigilant. The devil is like a roaring lion. He going around seeking whom he may devour. And even when lions are around, like even if you're dealing with like the king, like he's still not necessarily always trying to just come up on you, like that. Like he's trying to and so you always got to be aware, especially when you're in his territory. And we don't think about that. Like Netflix is his territory. I'm not saying that you can't watch no Netflix. I'm just saying when you do that, like know where you're going. Like you go to Disney, like like they did with Mickey, where Mickey, if you turn it upside down, if you're drinking some water and you look in the reflection and Mickey's in your cup, it says wicked, stuff like that. Like you got to know whose territory like you going into. Like they did this stuff on purpose.
Netflix, right? What's the net for? But they funny, man. They real funny, dude. They so funny. And that's the point, man. Once you start seeing it, it's just like, wow, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
How they do it, right? And it's something I feel like we had to get back into because it's actually our language, symbolism, right? Symbolism is our thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to really get into too, and get out of this idealism that we have, this romanticism, like you said, right?
Yeah.
We got to break free of these constraints that they placing over us for real. Because scripture tell us, when you know the truth, it's going to set you free, right? And definitely come back into our own, right? And stop looking for reparations. Also, we don't even need reparations if we do what we're supposed to do by way of forming better, right? All those things gonna come to us.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we just follow the program, like I say it all the time, like we, the works, faith without works is dead, and works without faith is dead. So it's great to have faith and stuff like that, but then how great is your faith if you don't ever work anything? Like, faith without works is not the reason it dies is just because, like if you have faith, but if you have a body, right, if you got two legs, but you don't walk, at some point, like it's going to start hurting you. If you got, if you got eyes, but don't open them, like you can cause yourself to go blind. If you got lungs, but don't breathe, it's not going to work that well. And it's like we got all these things that we don't work. Like something as simple as Psalm 120. I say this verse like several times a day in my personal time on the lives. Like Psalm 122, become a compact nation. If you got a business and I got a business, then why do we need anybody else for whatever you sell? Right now, I'm not saying give me trash, right? Like give me your best, but by the way, give the Most High your best, and then after you give him your best, give me your best too, and so whatever I have, like if I have it, it should be yours. So if we got somebody who does healing, like we don't need to go nowhere else. If we got somebody else that does clothing, like we don't need to go nowhere else. If we got somebody who does, if we have somebody who does life coaching, does counseling, somebody that helps people to start businesses. If you got somebody who helps you, like Brother TJ on here, angelic discipline, he can do stuff for you on social media, things like that. Like he can take something that you got this small and show you how to do it. He'll even take it and make a video. He might even write some music for you if you need it, right? And the big, and there should be like nothing that we're lacking, because there is nothing we're lacking. That's when you come together to be the puzzle pieces. And like that's one of the smallest, it seems like a small thing, but with us, because of the way we've been taught to be against each other, it's one of the biggest things, that's holding us back, because it actually seems like a small thing for us to be dealing in these things, or it seems like a small thing for us to come together and have conversation, etc., or just to do that. But it's one of the biggest things holding us back. We as a diaspora, on this side of the diaspora, because we keep forgetting how big we are, even if you want to talk about Israel. But if you talk about Afrocentricity, which normally people use that are talking about with the diaspora. If you just took the diaspora to the United States of America and you took the money that we make every year, if you were to separate it, we would become like number 8 in the world as far as all the countries in the world as far as money that we make. Yet we still the poorest, so to speak. But it's not that we're poor. Like the Bible says, it's not that you're poor, it's that you're rich and you don't know it. And so they steal from you. They steal from you in bills you don't need to pay. They steal from you in time you don't need to give. They steal from you in taxes you don't need to pay. Like certain things, you get mad at other people. And in that sense, I guess I can somewhat agree with that thing where people try to say we obsessed with oppression, because we'll tell you why it's unfair, but there are some things that you just don't do and you don't do as a people. They had the Melanin Conference for years and wouldn't let us come to the Melanin Conference. Then we started having the Melanin Conference of our own. And guess what? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you got all these great minds that are shooting up and telling you how to take care of your body and how you're different and how everybody's different and how you should eat different and all those other things, and how a lot of stuff that we had, the dietary laws and restrictions that we should have adhered to, they're saying the same thing. But we never took time out to just be like, hey, it's okay to put yourself in a category. Like, it's okay, even when people say stuff and then like about the human race, like people don't even realize, like people say there's one human race. No, there's not. What you mean? There's no, there's not one human race. No, there is one human race. Do you know where the word race came from? Like, do you know what it means? Well, race is, they're trying to say it's different tribes and this and that, but we're one community. No, that's not where it came from. The word race comes from Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus is somebody who said that animals had races. And then he said certain human beings came from certain animals. And he said that, using colonial social constructs, he said white people, the white race, came from these animals. So they're on top. And then here comes the Native American race, came from these animals. And then the Asian race that came from these animals. And then you came from these animals. That's what he said. And so it's like, so I'm not part of a race because I'm not an animal. And I'm not in competition because a race is competition. I'm not in competition with animals nor any other human. I'm okay with being me. So it's like, even these terms we use, they're not really based off of the same stuff. So even some of the stuff that we use is not stuff that is really things that are for us. We're getting them from other places. So that's the reason why you even think like the way that you do, and you think that you this race or that race, or we're one human race. I'm not an animal. Like, to be a human race means to be a human animal. Now some people believe in that stuff, so we get it twisted. And we think that we're human animals. I'm not a human animal. I'm a human. Yeah.
You know what? I want to get blackballs. I mean, I know a few things out of it. Not much out of blackball, but I know that's how they communicate. And that's how they handle it. Right.
No, yeah, that's a big one. Or just looking through law dictionaries in general, but Black's Law is definitely a great one because it's the most widely recognized and used one in the West, which basically is the
question. What does the word person mean in Black Law?
It can mean one or two. Well, I mean, it means a lot of things. But if I could make it like kind of short and sweet, it means two basic things you kind of need to know about a person is basically dealing with a status. So if you say a person, and usually you're just dealing with males only. So if you say a person, but if you're a natural person is actually different. They're not governed by the same laws. And a natural person is actually dealing with a male and female, because both of us are natural. Both of us are in the nature of things. So it's different. And persons is plural, a person. But if you do people, the people is a nation. So, and also a person can be a corporation as well. So it kind of it depends on which way we going, what route you're doing, and what they're trying to say against you, which one you want to kind of use. But you should probably always think of yourself as a natural person, not a natural man or natural woman all the time, and not even a human, because they say that humans are monsters. But you should actually look at yourself as a natural as a natural person. And if you just say you're a natural person, they're automatically going to say, okay, you're saying they're male or female. They're saying like people, like, that's why I even tell people when you do when, no shade towards, those brothers and sisters dealing with LGBTQ plus stuff, because I don't have no heaven or hell to put you in. This is just something you need to know. It's like they push you into some of these places, right? And they say identifies this, identifies that. But by law that they don't know what a lesbian is. Like, they don't know what a gay person is by law. Like, they don't know what a bisexual, a transgender person, a asexual, or a ally, a queer. Like, they don't know what that is. So, like, when you try to get that to be upheld in law, what you're saying is that you have to become a fictitious entity. So that's why they pushed that. It's like when we started being pushed on us, like by Jesse Jackson and others, like in the late 70s, early 80s, and they started saying, call yourself an African American. By law, there's no definition for that. So you keep trying to push something that there's no nation, there's no tongue, there's no language, there's nothing to give that any credence in any kind of law. But people don't like law. People don't realize that, everything that's legal is not lawful either. So yeah, you can legally be thus and such and call yourself this, but it doesn't mean there's anything to protect that right. And so when you say, well, they're not taking care of LGBTQ plus rights and stuff like that, you got to even realize that that's your fight. And it's not even my fight, but I'm trying to give you game. If you're going to protect yourself, right, like, you have to realize that they don't have things to back that up. It's like you saying police brutality. There's no law against police brutality. So you can go into court. Now, maybe the judge wants you to win, so they'll help you out. But there's no such thing, or maybe your lawyer knows how to present it. But if you go and you say, well, they're trying to circumvent my civil rights, there's a law for that. Then they go, oh, okay, I got to pay attention to that. But you just go in there saying police brutality, they don't have to listen to anything you say, because there's no such law. So they don't have to protect that right. God. And that's that gang mentality we were talking about earlier. Them gangs, like they throwing gang words at you, just like there's gang signs. You don't know what this is. You don't know what that is. But that's all it is. They throw us gang signs, and they try to press you. Where you from, cuz? Like they press you. And you don't know how to deal with the press, or you by yourself. If you out in LA and you wearing the wrong colors, if they press you and you by yourself, you're gonna be in for some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll be in for a bad day.
Right, man. And that's why I always love language. Reading, critical thinking, because I always I read. Reading is not just words. You learn to read people, and especially with psychology and everything, the makeup. You just learn what the idea of reading actually is, right? And how it applies, and like with symbolism or whatnot. I just started learning how these people operate, yo. It's a funky thing,
Mm-hmm.
But I believe right now we coming up. I don't know. What do you think? What's your thoughts on this? The thing that's going on up there in what is it? What's the place they at? Where they up there? Russia.
Yeah, you said in Russia?
Yeah. Did you hear?
I might not even heard what you're talking about.
They supposedly had China ships and naval ships from China or whatnot, or Russia, that was actually in U.S. waters. How do you look at that? What do you think is? How do you think that's going to turn out?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know. I'm not worried about it per se, especially being in the military before. I say this, like, people don't recognize that stuff happened more than you think. You just don't be hearing about it. Like, I mean, that's like, there's always something. Like, people don't think about this. Like, for Pearl Harbor, for example, right? When you go there and do some research, if you ever get a chance to go, I was stationed there. So one of the first things we did when I got there, basically, it was like the Christmas season and all that. So basically, we had free time and you didn't really have to do nothing at your station. So I didn't take leave since I was transferring at that time. While everybody was gone, I would just show up real quick in the Rise and do my thing for like 10, 15 minutes, show up for muster, whatever. And then if they ain't need me for the rest of the day, we roll out and checked out the island and stuff like that, and went to some other places too. And but you go to Pearl Harbor, and you do some research, and you'll discover that basically what set things off was not just some random thing. Japan came over. Japan had been spying for a minute. They had Japanese spies, and they thought America was, for lack of a better word, thought they were punks, and thought like, they ain't joined the war yet. But that's what we thought. Only was like, okay, so they came over, and they thought we were soft, and they could have taken over. They could have kept going, because back then there was no. I mean, there was sonar, but not like today. So they could have just kept rushing and could have went all the way up and really messed up America for real. But they thought they would hit America real quick, and then they just go back. America would stay punked out, and they realize how powerful the Japanese were. But a lot of cats don't realize that, America was sending subs and stuff over. And so they kept seeing them over there. So Japan was like, well, we already know America's fighting and giving England, troops and giving them tanks and planes and all that. So they were like, they must be fighting. So let's just go ahead and get it. So stuff like that always happens, especially if you're talking about stuff that's supposed to be secretive, or things like the SEALs or the Rangers or whatever, recon, all that stuff. So it's like stuff like that happens all the time. So it's like, but I would have to look more into that specific situation. I didn't know that was a new thing, but there's like a lot of people forget, wasn't there? I don't know if it was Russian. I think it might've been Russian. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago? Like they were finding porpoises. They were finding like manatees, dolphins, things like that had like Russian spy devices on them, and they had been training them how to do it. And one of the manatees actually like kind of broke away from them, and actually came. The way they found out is like they came to like an American ship, just like a regular ship that somebody was fishing off of, or not ship, boat. They came to a regular boat, and they actually wanted the person to get the device off of them, and that's how they found out. Like, so stuff like that happens like all the time. And at the end of the day, you always got to look in between. Like Russia, like for real, Russia is not against the Ukraine. And Ukraine is not against Russia. That's the wrong way to be looking at the fight. Like, and that's the thing that they try to trick us on, and they trying to get you to be Republican, Democrat, and all that nonsense. Like, Russia is not against Ukraine. Ukraine's not against Russia. You got to think about who Putin represents. That's who he's fighting for. And Ukraine is who, who their higher powers are working for. That's who they're fighting with. It's like in Cuba. People go, oh, it was as simple as America versus Cuba. It's like, actually, no, like that's not really what happened. Matter of fact, Cuba came to America first, and America didn't like the fact that who won. So basically, when Cuba said we need help with food, America said we ain't gonna do nothing because we'd rather the other side won. So that's when Cuba starts going to places like Russia, and that's when more Cubans, than Americans did. Cubans had Cuban blood that was shed for African nations. Like, they got mad love for Castro over there. That's also the same reason why if you see people in Miami, not trying to be against my Miami brethren, because y'all know we're gonna be down there to say hello to y'all, but it is what it is. We gonna tell the truth, right? Shame the devil. Like, huh? What'd you say?
When y'all coming towards Miami?
We went there last year. We're going to go there at least one more time this year. Hopefully they'll be meeting up a few times before we even get up over there. But we're probably going to end up, my brother that we baptized, I know him and his wife, they're trying to get married. So we're going to have to at least come down there for that. And then do some, we might try to do something else down there. We're trying to get as many places as we can. We might not be able to do as many trips as we did last year. Last year was wild. I think we were on the road probably about 6 months out of last year. So we ain't gonna do all that. But yeah, when we come down that route, we'll let people know. But yeah, like when you go down there and you see the cats from Cuba, right? And Afro Cubano, mi hermanos, excuse me. Like when you see those cats down there, you got to like think about the fact that a lot of them who started the whole rhetoric of like a lot of them who came over, it wasn't as simple as everybody who came over was coming over because Castro was trying to kill them because they were bad. A lot of them were people who were the haves and didn't want to give up what they had. Now, I'm not saying everything Castro did was great. That would be a lie. But at the same time, that was a lot of people that came over. It wasn't just that's the lie, is that it's only poor Cuban folk that are trying to escape. It's like a lot of them were even people that didn't like people of color. And Castro, even though he wasn't trying to solve the problem of racism, he didn't really care like that. He was just taking from everybody. And so, like, even though he did give great education, people don't like to talk about that. They did have some healthcare going on. There are some things he did positive, but he did what he did. A lot of it he had to do because he asked for help from the United States and from other places, and they basically made it clear to him and put trade embargoes and all this to make sure his people were going to starve to death. So if that's what you got to do, it's like you basically turned, somebody who became a monster to win the war but wanted to be peaceful. You made that monster grow and grow and grow. So like in our mind, we'll just think it was, oh yeah, the democratic governments versus the communist regime. It's like, no, bro, like that's not what it was. Like the CIA was against Castro, and Castro started messing with Russia because Russia would at least back them up and give them some weapons and maybe give them some food. And Castro was actually willing to die. Like Russia backed off. If you look at that whole thing between JFK and stuff, if you get a chance, do some research on that. Like JFK and all them, Russia was always lying, saying that they could hit America with some weapons. They really couldn't. Then they sent the nuclear weapons over to Russia, and Russia supposedly got stopped, but they didn't realize they had gotten some of them in. They peeped game and saw that they were building the missiles on Cuban ground, and they had them close enough where they could start hitting some places. And so that's when all of a sudden JFK basically threatened and said, hey, look, we know what y'all got, this and that. If y'all want to shoot or whatever, we'll probably hit all your missiles. But even if one get through, I promise you, like everybody in Cuba done. Like they just gonna be dead. And Russia backed out. Castro was actually willing to fight to the end, but he was on some, death to America type stuff at that point because they was letting his people die. So all these wars that you see, like it's always bigger than that. And then it's that 4 horsemen piece, Revelation 6 verses 1-8. Like basically you got somebody riding, conquering for conquering's sake. You got somebody making money off war. You got somebody who's trying to make sure that they take your food from you and stuff. And you got somebody causing death and pestilence. Like that's every war in a nutshell. So so even when you see, Russia versus whenever they put that out, that's to try and get the masses in the uproar. Because at the end of the day, Joe Biden, he make money off of Russia. Joe Biden makes money off of China. Mitch McConnell, if he's still in Congress, I don't know if he still is, but he still make money off of his wife is the daughter of a billionaire communist in China that's anti-America. So you can't tell me it's Republican, Democrat. Trump, when he was in, all his hats were made in China, but he was saying China, 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 like all his stuff made in China. So it's like all this stuff that they're saying, they don't care about you. They don't care about that. That's stuff to get us outside of who we supposed to be, our calling, our being a nation, our laws, our statutes. So I don't pay attention to. I probably should pay attention to it more than I do, but I also believe what Yahushua or Yahushua, Yeshua, etc. I believe what he said in Matthew 24 when they said, "What's the end of the world going to look like?" And he said, well, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes and sickness and poverty and this and that. And he said, and that's just the beginning of sorrow. He said, these things have to happen. He said, but then verse 13, the save scripture we don't ever use. He said, but those of us that endure to the end, he says, then you'll be saved. Those are the ones that'll be saved. So he said, don't get it twisted. Like, yeah, there got to be people coming in Jesus' name instead of the right name. There have to be people. Like he names out all this stuff. And then he says, there'll be many people coming saying this and that, saying they're apostles, saying they're prophets, saying they're blah, blah, blah. He said, but just endure those things. And he said, this is the thing that he's looking for when he's going to come back. Matthew 24:14. Right after that, he says, when you give this interpretation, some people still use the word gospel, but when you give this interpretation of what it is that I say, of this interpretation of the law, he said, then that's when I'm coming back. He said, if you want me to come back, preach the word. If you preach the word and make sure it's the word, not a word.
Our preach start going out. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it's going out right now.
Yeah.
It's going out. It's going out. It's getting out there. I mean, I see you, so I know it's going out there. You see me.
Amen. Yeah, you doing that work too. You putting in that work for sure.
It's going out, and that's what I'm looking for. I just look and say, okay, wow, okay, so the gospel is going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. The true gospel is going out, right? the captives being set free, right? So yeah. It's time for the deep in the night. It's about time for the deep in the night. And you know it's going to be, and I agree with what you said, because he said it's going to be as a thief in the night, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be as the days of Noah. You know, people going to be marrying. It's going to be like any regular day. People going, rumors of war, right? People going to be hanging out, enjoying themselves. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be plain, right? But I know, you know, we hear it. When we hear the wars, we think Thunderdome, Mad Max, right? And we think everything's just gonna be desolate. But when they say he building on, that we're gonna rebuild the many desolations of the generations and whatnot, it's actually talking about us as people, right? We're the desolate places, right? And we going back and we're rebuilding, right? But I also do believe too, like, yeah, it's gonna be a major fallout or whatnot. When it's gonna be, I can't say. But you know, I be listening to the brothers on the corners. They really think it's coming right now. It's about to go down. They believe it's about to go down.
And it could be. I just pay attention to the word, because that's the main thing. Like, it was made very clear. Like, if you want to know what's going to happen, like, look for the word. Like, if the word, if not a word, but if the word, and it's got to hit every corner. You know, it's got to hit every nook and cranny. Everybody who's on the earth at one time, at some point, would have had to, you know, to a certain extent, obviously, because, you know, I don't know what the babies and all that stuff just was going to look like, but, you know, like, but, you know, to a certain extent, it's got to get out there. Now you got stuff like, you know, the internet and picking up. You've got different types of social media. You've got stuff that now is just for certain diaspora to use. You got this, you got that. Like, there's so much stuff. And there's also another thing that, once again, I'm always about the word and coming together, because Revelation 12 tells you clearly that, you know, Yashtel, she has to go into the wilderness again to start preparing herself, and the only people that's really going to be under attack is that remnant. You know, that remnant that's still out there. We still got to try our best to get them to come over, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, like, and what a lot of us doing is, and I'm not saying anything bad about people who, you know, you go where you called to preach and stuff, but I'm just saying, make sure you're led, because we're supposed to be, at some point, you got to become a nation, and the nation has to be sealed. That's Revelation 7. And then you can start talking about everybody graft in who's willing to follow the commandments. But it's like, you got to first make sure that you sealed, and we got the door open to everybody. You know, we got the we got the.
I just took that down. Isaiah 33:6 and wisdom and knowledge. That be the stability in the time, strength of salvation, the fear of Yahweh is his treasure, right? And Daniel, Daniel 12. Mm-hmm. Right. I had just took them down because I was gonna go up later, and I just go over some of Jacob's trouble. So I had just took Isaiah 33 down and Daniel's 12, right? Mm-hmm. And the increase in knowledge in those times.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Amen. But I'm gonna go ahead and take my leave. I gotta get some stuff done. My wife is trying to contact me. Thanks for being. Oh, I see you on, babe. Thanks for being on. But I appreciate y'all, and thanks for spending some time with me, big bro. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you always coming by. Grace my pay, citations, greetings.
Kwame Yashda. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate y'all. Y'all be easy. Y'all stay safe. Thank you again for listening in on the conversation. And well, tonight has been myself and Brother Koba. And we thank y'all for being on as we try to change lives one mind at a time, of being a voice of the voiceless, speaking the unspoken. We give all praise and honor to the Most High. Please study anything that you heard tonight. Study it to show yourself approved unto Elohim, that you can be a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. I want to say thanks to my wife once again. We give honor and praise to the Most High for her. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we look forward to talking to you all again. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Check out Brother Koba. I believe you said you're going to go on tonight, right? in a little bit. So please check him out if you get a chance to. Check me out tomorrow. I'll be on Kofi_43, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, or back on YouTube, or those that check out us out on Facebook or the podcast. We'll check you out there. But thank y'all. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to keep doing what we're supposed to do and giving this word out. So as always, Yastel, thank you for being on. And please remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, Yasha. Peace.
Shalom.